I have a question about the for the professors, the demonstration and the
President Huang.
I think that's together. You both mentioned the importance of the learning knowledge acquisition, but I think also mentioned that the internal development for student characteristics. But I think that's just the another issue. I don't know what you, in your opinion, what would be good characters? And when we define good characters, we all have a different personality opinions. For example, I maybe emphasize like the reading justice. Some people maybe mention that the integrity or whatever. Okay. How does the professors can impose that to the, especially in the college, and to students, and without bias, without misleading them? Because I think that's part of this, the who to judge, what's the what would be good one. And I have the for the question for the that is the that the same as putting back to how we can implement that. I think the question is that say as a faculty, how can we do that? Like say the that's the disciplinary. So that who to make that call? What should be together? In college, how can we actually do that? Who are the God, and basically who are the God to make all the decisions for us? And as we say that we don't know the futures.
That was about a 20-part question, I think. But I'll try. I was thinking as we were talking that there may be more in common. Our attitudes may have more in common than we imagine. I think it would be very interesting to teach kids entrepreneurism. And that would, entrepreneurism by definition, you might say, is interdisciplinary. Maybe in another context you would call it transdisciplinary. But it involves all sorts of knowledge. It involves creativity, and it involves, in some sense, the arts. It involves finance. It involves a lot of different things. And so if we indeed do take the topic of entrepreneurism and start educating people from the very beginning of their lives in the ideas behind this may be a way to achieve some of
this. It's a very interesting question. It's a very typical adult question, like who is the judge? And my answer to that directly, very short answer, is that I don't think anyone is to judge what kids, characters, or what are the good quality of characters. Foremost, because every kid is different. Their strength is different, their experience is different. So in the spirit, as I mentioned earlier, about diversity, as opposed to conformity, we wanted to actually make sure our kids grow up, everyone different. Now, you ask a question, the second part of your question is, what do we do specifically? There are two things I do at work and also with my own kids. Let me begin with the work first, talking about characters. There are two questions I generally share with my employees when we have a discussion. The first question is, when they come to me, and the first question is that, is it about you or is it about others? We have, for example, recently I have a guy who came out to me and said, I have a problem with the sales department. Their forecast is incorrect. Okay, and then the discussion focused on, because it's incorrect, it causes me the problem. But if you direct the question by asking, is it about you or is it about others? I wanted to begin to think about, why is it the forecast? What is it? What other departments were doing differently, and why are they doing differently than you are? So external look is very important. And the second question I generally ask my employee whenever they come up with something is, this type of innovation, usually, one of the innovation theories, we have a lot of experts here, is about withholding resources. So whenever my employee come to me and said, I need $10 million to build another warehouse. Okay. And my answer usually is that, I'm sorry, I don't have $20 million. So what would you do? And actually what you find is that they become very innovative too. In fact, I can give you a live example. This happened about maybe two or 3 years ago too. Exactly, somebody came to me and said, I want $20 million. And a typical response is, well, let's see whether we have that money or not, or whether is it 20 or maybe 10. You basically try to create an innovative process by withholding the resources. I'll give you another even more specific example about characters, building characters. This is with my kids. Many years ago, when he was a little kid, I don't know whether you remember, kids when they were growing up, they are attracted by fashions. So one day my son comes back and said, Dad, I want to buy glasses. He wanted to buy glasses, but he has no need for glasses. But because his peers, his classmates have glasses, he said, I want glasses. So again, I told him, I said, I'm sorry, I don't have money for the glasses. It was very interesting. It was almost instantly he said, Dad, can I have your old glasses? Can I have your old glasses to wear? I'm just using that as an example that, in sum, what I'm trying to say is that let's not try to play God. I think you pointed out very well. Tell them what's right and what's wrong. But by asking the right question, and you will be surprised the employees or your kids have far greater potential than they are, because their resources are vastly different from yours. In some instances, their resources are even far more comprehensive than the resources you have. So I think one of the points that Charlie mentioned earlier about believing your kids. And so I'm sorry for taking a long way to answer that question. So we shouldn't play God, okay? But we try to ask the right questions when we deal with the kids.
I'm a faculty member in National Senior University. I'm in the marine biology field. And based on my experience, it's kind of tough to arrange or to adjust my teaching direction. Actually, we know we should give our kids chance to do, really pay action, learning by doing. But we really put much time in teaching many knowledge or the basic information we think that's important to them. And also we have many students and we try to catch our schedule. So we don't really give our kids much chance to accomplish things since they are from primary education all the way through undergraduate education. And so when we accept our graduate students, it's really difficult to ask them to accomplish a project or one experiment. So to me, how to put learning by doing this project or this behavior back to our system, and it's kind of difficult. Not really to everybody, but to myself, it's also the same. So that's just want to ask, how do you manipulate or how do you adjust this and you feel comfortable?
Okay, well, quite a simple answer, I'm afraid, but in my own courses, I nearly always introduce project work. So whenever I take over a course that someone else has been teaching, I would introduce a project of some description. So even in a very introductory class, I get the students to be doing a project. They might have to go out and find an organisation and do a business case and look to see how they can introduce IT. But if they're not used to doing it, you need to provide a fair bit of scaffolding for them. So give them examples and have checkpoints along the way. I don't know if that's a very sophisticated answer, but that's what I do.
If I could add to what Shirley just said, I think that there is a role for faculty members in higher education. I don't think we're going to see the demise of having faculties, and the reason for that is because I think we have to provide scaffolding. To some extent, we're all self-educated, right? Nobody else can sit there and read that book or read that article or look at those pictures for us. We have to all do that ourselves. But if we don't have the scaffolding, if we don't have any intellectual guidance, then we can spend our whole lives mislearning things that a profession has determined are not good principles or are in fact inaccurate knowledge. And then the other major role for a faculty member that I just don't see any replacement for, it doesn't matter if you're online or if you're on campus face-to-face, faculty members have to provide feedback to students. If we don't provide feedback to them, then we don't know how well they do. It's great for them to go out and do these projects. But if we say to them, every project is good, every project is wonderful, and we give them no feedback at all and say, you know, frankly, if I were a businessman, that project I would never fund. It just is simply unrealistic. If we don't give them that kind of hard feedback, we are defaulting to saying everything is fantastic, everything is wonderful, and that's not the way the world works, sadly. If the world were that kind of place, it would be great to give people that kind of advice. So I believe that we have to give them feedback. It has to be honest, it has to be hard. It's only from our standpoint. I tell my students all the time, I say, look, I'm just one person. I'm giving you this advice. Take it for what it's worth. Ask others. Ask other knowledgeable, what you consider to be knowledgeable people. And in a certain sense, then educate yourself on what you're going to value and how you're going to proceed on these things.
I'm not an educator, so I'm not qualified to answer that question. But if I were to push that a little bit, saying that because I'm a father, therefore I'm also an educator in a loose sense, my response to you, my response to you will be very simple. One, there's a tendency we try to equate education with schooling, but I think education is broader, is much more than schooling. So I look at it from that angle. In other words, loosely defined, I think education, schooling is part of education. And I, for example, with my kids, I said, you know, you try to learn from school, yes. But there are other things that is important. For example, community service. I don't care whether it's K-12 or high school or college. It's a culture that is not as prevalent in Taiwan that is in the Western world. Community service, so you learn to appreciate different people with different needs. And the third one is actually working. Okay, find a job, any kind of job. Because you're talking about the relevance about, you know, the actual practice, I mean, the actual situation. So we have to encourage our kids to be working, to be putting their time for volunteer work, and also traveling as an example. Okay, because only with those, whatever they learn has a context, and only when you have a context, then you have a meaning in life. Okay, that's how I see that. So it should be something beyond just schooling myself.
Thank you.
I would like to draw the attention back on the teaching part. Okay, I have years of teaching experience in university. Recently, I keep wondering, are we teaching Google? Are we trying to teach Wikipedia? Or we were just repeating what we have learned in our past, while our students are facing a completely different new world. So I start to ask myself, so I said to my students, I said, I don't care about your job when you're 25 years old. And no voice here? No? Okay, so I said to my student, I said, I don't care about your job when you're 25 years old, but I do care your job when you're 40. So then that's begin from the 40. So, but in the university, many professors like to cling on what they have known, what they know best, because they are very focused. They have a very deep knowledge in a certain discipline or certain area. So this is definitely needed because the whole higher education still need to be sustained by the in-depth type of discipline, research and teaching. But in order to create a future or for the student, I would wander out to do something really more interesting. So the problem is how to convince students that this is exciting. I've seen many professors work very hard, but from their face I don't see any excitement at all. I only see numbers, I only see papers, I only see all this promotion. So if the student look up to the professors, there's no excitement, they don't see passion. How do we convince them this will be a good future for you? So I like to take it back to the question as me. I think in this aspect I will not blame to the student because they are here to learn from me. So I have to demonstrate an enthusiastic way. So I think most of the success people will tell you passion is important. You should have a dream. But the third thing is you have to be able to execute your dream. Otherwise everything is nonsense, everything is hollow. So, and if I have 30 seconds, I would like to elaborate a few of the question the first professor asked. How do you judge the character? So I'm not sure about NTU. So in many times we allow cultural diversity, so we don't need to judge. They will go their way. But in certain times we need to rank the good character. For example, in university, we want to elect so-called 教学优良老师. So that's a character. 教学, the teaching excellency is a good character. But have we ever gone into the debate or philosophical thinking, what is good character in teaching? And then we start to vote in a very democratic way. Of course, nobody will agree with anybody. So I think philosophical debate is very important in university among the faculty, but unfortunately we seek for a quick solution. We like to plug number in the equation and get a result. That will not work, and especially in the higher education. This is my opinion for the question and maybe comment a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Jacob Tsai. I'm the PhD, I'm the postdoc research at National Taiwan University. I just have quick questions. I think maybe the Professor Sherry and Professor Zheng can answer my questions. I just wondering if the transparency or creativity is what we want to pursue in our higher educations. So how the university can do this to the students? Should we encourage the student to climb the trees at the beginning, or after they climb the tree at the top of the tree, and then we encourage them to combine another disciplines? So I'm just wondering, so how far and the cost of the issue. So I think it's the process, the standard process in Taiwan education take a long time for a student to become transdisciplinary. So take me as an example, my majors in my college is economics, and then I study my PhD at information system. But it quite take a long time, like 10 years in average in Taiwan. So how the university can do to conduct the transdisciplinary programs for the students. So this is what I want to know. Thank you.
First of all, there's a difference. The creativity is one aspect, and then the transdisciplinarity is another. But creativity in students is something that, it's not just creativity, it's what I might call a questioning mind. And I know we have discussions with some colleagues about how they expect students to learn, and I think we have discussions about different cultures, the way people learn. And I know when I have students come from other countries to Australia, sometimes they will be upset, for example, if they see two professors arguing with each other, which I would regard as normal. So in my opinion, students come to universities to learn and to be challenged and to learn to question and have discussions and go out and they should be inspired to discover knowledge, which is different again from being an entrepreneur. So we'll always end up with different people. So I'm not myself much interested in making money, so I would not be a good entrepreneur. So we need all different sorts of people, but that is, I think, really always been the dream of what universities are for, is discovery of knowledge. And if we have people who come along who want to sit and just listen and not join in, or we want teachers who teach and expect the students to write down everything that they've got and just reproduce that, I think that's just a wrong thing. So we know there are ways of trying to encourage the students to join in more and to question them, and it's, you know, it's not always easy for people to adapt their learning style. So that's, we do what we can. So that's one thing. But the other thing, the transdisciplinarity, I think that was a very good question, because I think maybe that's not something that we can expect right from the start. We can, as students go on, I was talking to Detmar before, we can start, you know, if we can allow them to take some subjects from areas outside their core, then that's good. That helps to spread their minds. But, you know, I think they say that to be an expert in one area, you need to spend 8 to 10 years in that area. So no, you're not going to become a true expert in another area. You're not, but you can work with people in teams. I think that's the main thing, who challenge you, and you learn what you can about those areas. So anyway, thank you for that question.
My explanation of transdisciplinary is not a methodology. It's not something. In one word, it's the ambient, it's the environment, it's the mindset. You look at things, you involve this different disciplinary, and but of course, over time for students, you need to soak yourself in different environments, so you will develop the way thinking. So I think it's a mindset. It's not something the university should do in a curriculum. Say we should have a course called transdisciplinary. Then you'll hear a whole bunch of experts throwing vocabulary and definitions and all the knowledge. Then students still get bored. So as Charles put it, children learn from what they live. Okay. Okay. I have to challenge National Taiwan University. In this campus, is this a transdisciplinary type of environment? Okay, you guys, we can answer to ourselves. So it's the behavior of the professors. Okay, how? Okay, as a vice president and our president, we promote we should reduce the course requirement for the student. I would boldly say if we cut half off the other half of the credit hour, the student will have to venture out, especially for undergraduate students, will have to venture out to learn and put it together. So this, I'm not saying I will do this, but this is the mindset change. So instead of telling people what we should do, I keep telling people what we should delete. So for professors, it's the same. Okay, I put it earlier. If we're not enthusiastic about what we are researching, how would we expect our student will be a good researcher to help us put especially in the College of Science. I think it reflected that professor sitting in the back, and I think in the College of Science we need students to do hard work. We have to do the hard work too. But most often students are not excited because we are not excited. So it's only an ambient, it's a mindset. That's my answer, thank you.
I think I know the difference between you and me. We have gray and white. Do you really believe that the creativity can be taught?
I think it's a bit like management. Can you teach someone to be a good manager? Can you teach someone to be an artist? I don't think you could teach someone who's got no talent. I think if you've got someone with a certain level of talent, you can improve it. Yes, so that's the answer.
Okay, that's a very good answer. And for the ending of the forum, actually everything is possible, even to be more talented. So everything is possible. And get excited, get interesting to everything. Be a monkey with wisdom, and so you can see far, far away, and you will be the core of the learning space. Thank you, everyone.